Well, good morning and welcome to the Art of Fire and a little springtime poetry for you. Spring has sprung, the grass is riz. I wonder where the flowers is. Well, some of them are flowering in trees right here at the Art of Fire. Good morning, Joanna. Good morning, Kathleen. Well, let's enter the studio and see what we got in store for you this fine spring morning. All right, we got 3 glass blowers sitting around. I don't know if they're going to try to change a light bulb or not. Those of you that might remember the old jokes, how many glass blowers does it take to change a light bulb? Or hang shirts for that matter. Good morning, Foster.
Hey, good morning.
Yeah, you're running a dry cleaning business here, huh? Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
good morning, Barbara.
We have these.
Okay, all right, and we're off to another jovial start, huh? Well, here's our theme for the day, folks. We're going to be making vases. The flowers are just so beautiful. They're just begging for something to be displayed in, and we've got a lot of that in store for you this morning.
Since it is springtime.
It's springtime.
That's right.
Exactly. All right. Good morning, Barbara. Good morning. And Joanna, Yelena. Oh, boy, Julia, I'm sorry. We got the whole crowd here and growing every moment. Okay. So let's take a look at what we're going to show you today. A hyacinth vase, a signature vase, a clear frit vase, a frit swirl teardrop, and a clear optic vase. Okay, so in the past, a couple of you have asked about design and making things and how do we come up with stuff. And the first piece we're going to do today is actually something new. So I picked a flower this morning from out in my front yard because I didn't know what it was, and I brought it in and asked for Theta's assistance in identifying it. So she quickly identified that as a hyacinth, and I noticed the bulb on the bottom, so Josh and I were discussing how could we make a vase in that pattern, and what would we do to get that coloration. So that's why we're going to have a hyacinth vase, which none of us have ever tried before. The techniques are going to be common to all the other glass blowing we do, but it should be interesting to see how the vase turns out. So I'm really excited about that. And before we go too much further, our winner of last week's Jack in the Pulpit, this white one with the red base, is Pamela Johnson Ritter. And the one next to it, the cranberry pink one here, is our giveaway for next week. So if you want to get entered in the drawing, all you have to do is comment. Every time you comment, your name gets entered and you're eligible to be in the drawing. That's our giveaway for next week. So here we have a fine display of a lot of our different vases. This flattened one right here, we'll be doing one of those a lot later on. But we just really feel like putting out all the different products we have, and then all these beautiful flowers in them just makes the whole thing stand out. So let's go ahead and get started down here. And Josh is going to make a hyacinth vase. And if my wife is watching, Joyce, after he makes one, I'll be making one. Not on the video. We're not going to take up time for that, but we've discussed this before. So Josh is first going to take a gather of clear glass from our 400-pound furnace. Actually, it's 400 pounds of glass. The furnace itself probably weighs closer to 1,500 or 2,000 pounds with all the brick. He's going to use the cherry wood cup that's on a handle there. We call that tool a block. And he's going to shape the glass and get that going. And then after he gets this shaped and he's decided where he's how much air to put in it or anything, he's going to start picking up frit. So you want to review the frit pickup for him, Josh?
That's debating the process. I think I've decided to do 2 gathers, and we'll go through the cranberry about 2 times, 3 times, and then we'll go through the white 2 times, and then back through the cranberry 2 times.
Alrighty. Yes, Carrie Jones, that basket really is beautiful. Todd made that a few weeks ago on one of our videos. And actually the addition of the flowers is really just tops them all off. And Barbara, yeah, we're looking forward to the development of the hyacinth vase. One of the things Josh and I were discussing ahead of time was how to get the pink on the inside and the outside, and how to establish the lines.
Right.
So this cranberry pink color here, it looks kind of a dusty gray right now to you probably. That'll be a beautiful pink when it comes out. And then that'll be backed up with white and then some more pink on the outside.
Yeah.
What will that do to the color? I'm not sure I understand the question, but we'll try and get back to you on that. So the reason for the different layers of color is we want a little pink on the inside, just as the flower does, and we want some stripes of pink on the outside, some visible. The white acts as a opaque separator between the layers of the pink. And Josh will be blowing this into an optic mold later on, and then the optic mold, because of the ridges in it, will create darker and lighter areas of pink. So as the glass goes in there, that's what it'll do.
So the hyacinth flower actually has 6 lobes. Our optic mold, the smallest optic mold we have is 8.
So we're going to fake it on the flower. Okay. I don't actually know if anybody makes those molds with just 6.
Nah, you probably have to get a custom.
Probably have to have a custom made one, and that would be terribly expensive. So now he's putting the opaque white on it right now. So he's got a layer of pink on the inside. He's going to have a couple of coatings of the white here, and then he'll put the pink on the outside. So what you'll see from the outside of the vase is the, yes, we call that artistic license, Barbara. Yes, exactly. The light will go through the pink outer layer, but it'll be reflected back to your eye from the white. So that's why he's going to get the pink on the outside. And just like the hyacinth flower has the ends of it kind of curled back and separated, he's going to do that same thing, and that's why we needed the pink on the inside. But the transmission of the light through the color will be exactly the same. If you've got any other questions, let us know. So now he's got his white on there. We'll go down and get the sample flower that started all of this. Okay. Now he's got all the white he needs, and now it's into the pink for the outer coating. And this is the effect we're going for. So that's the idea behind all of this nonsense. Okay, so another layer of pink. Yes, Lynn, we do visualize the final piece as a part of the design. Well, based on the shape of the flower with this bulbous bottom, Josh already knows what he'll have to do as far as lengthening the glass and creating almost like a teardrop shape after he's gone into the optic mold. Yeah, there is a method to the madness, David. Definitely a method to the madness. So the process is centuries old. The process is going to be about the same. It's just which techniques do we choose to use to execute it. So once Josh gets this all prepared as far as color preparation and the, yes, Patrick says, wow, Bruce, that looked like a real flower. Yes. Ah, okay, Bridget is with me on the linguistic aspect, but we'll get to that in a minute. So this is a flower, as we mentioned. It's going to have 8 lobes because that's what our optic mold has. But those ridges in there, those points of separation, are going to cause the darkened and the lightened areas. So yeah, I probably mentioned it in our other video, but I think I'm the only one in the studio that says vase instead of vase. And I'm a holdout, so I'm glad to see that Bridget is with me on that. However, I must say, Bridget, you and I are not very posh, I guess. Okay, so you can see him getting the air in that. He's going to begin to elongate. Kevin Ward says a quick Google check reveals none of the major manufacturers like Steiner have a 6-flute optic mold. Okay. All right, a little bit of elongation, and what you'll see is the taper. Narrower at the top, wider at the bottom. A little bit of a blowout there, and you can see this long bulbous shape coming into effect. Now what we're going to have to remember is that after Josh does the transfer to the putty and then gets it set up, he's going to be cutting some of that top out and curling it over. So he needs to, at this point, get it a little bit longer than the finished vase.
I'll grab one out of the bucket.
Mary Wampler, Hellbacker, yes, thank you. She says vase the same way I do. All right, we're gonna have the posh versus the non-posh. Okay. You can see that the expansion's taking place primarily at the bottom. There's that bulbous shape that you see in the flower. He's got the jack line started on it. He'll probably reinforce that a little from time to time. That's the point where the piece will separate from the blowing iron. I missed what must have been a comment about not paying enough for your vases, if you call them vases instead of vases. But Bridget comes back and says my credit card disagrees with that statement. All of her vases come from Art of Fire. Okay. All right, now Foster has got some glass on the end of a blowing iron. Josh has the piece held upside down, so the bottom is up. He'll let that glass drip on, get it centered, and then cut it free. Then it'll be a couple of taps on it with the footing, with the back of the jack, get it straightened up some.
Actually, this is going to be a stem, Bruce.
Oh, you got a stem on this one, okay. See, we've changed up the design already. All right, so this is the stem, then the foot will go on later. Well, welcome, Kristen. We'll give a quick explanation here in just a moment. This isn't so much a challenge piece, but when I showed up today, I asked Josh what were his thoughts on making a vase in the shape of this hyacinth flower. So after a little bit of planning and discussion, it's underway. What we have here is a cranberry pink, and you can see the areas darkening now. You know how on the flower, the vase is telling Josh how to proceed. Yes. And as he slows the rotation here in just a minute, you can see those dark lines. There they are. And that's what you see so beautifully in the flower. That is a result of the use of the optic mold. So now we're really going to do the foot. Foster's going to take a couple of gathers on an iron again. Josh has the stem prepared. . they'll put the foot on the end of the stem. Same type of process, holding the piece upside down. The glass goes on the stem and he lifts up gently to keep it from surrounding the whole stem. Now using the footboard to pat it into place, getting it centered, and then using our footboards, which are two pieces of wood hinged together with a fabric strap. By pinching the glass between the two blades, it gets that knife edge on it. And now Josh can take a quick reheat, come back and shape the foot to its final shape. Foster, meanwhile, is preparing the punty or pontle. It's a little bit of glass on the end of a solid iron, and that's going to serve almost like a glue bit to stick to the foot Josh has made. Using the footboard just to shape it up and thin it, and then he'll use his jacks to change the profile of the foot, to actually push it outward a little bit, an indentation in the bottom, and then a little bit of straightening. This will ensure that the piece sits nicely on your tabletop. A little use of the paddle there. Now Josh is going to take a break. We'll see you later, Josh. Okay. Actually, he's grabbing a small torch. He's going to take a flash, but what he's going to use that torch for is to reheat the neck area a little bit. It's been out of the heat a little while, and so he wants to make sure that that's warm and doesn't crack when they take the piece off on the punty. So by heating that joint right there in a moment, he'll ensure that it doesn't fracture. We need that joint cold enough to break, but we don't want it to fracture. So, good morning, Susan. Welcome aboard. Just a little bit of heat on it helps out. Josh will place the punty and get it centered. By using the blades of the tweezers and pushing toward the floor when he needs to, he gets it aligned with the central axis of the piece. And that's what centering is all about. Now a little more heat on that neck so that it doesn't shatter. And then you'll either score it or put water on it to chill it quickly, and a tap takes it off. And there we go. Foster carries it back over to the glory hole, and another successful transfer. So now you can see the piece is kind of dancing around on the putty yet, okay? That's because it was a hot connection. Every once in a while, Josh will put the whole piece into the glory hole. That'll be about 2,300 degrees. Then he's going to concentrate his heat on the upper reaches of the vessel. So as you saw from the flower, and we'll hold it up again. Actually, now that you see the piece with the optic lines in it, you can see how we got the lines of color in the flower beautifully. He's centering it now. If it's a little bit off, he can just adjust it on the punty, okay? So as the flower is curled and draped back over itself, so will the vase. And personally, I think this is really cool because I just brought the flower in today because I thought, man, this would be really cool to make. And of course, I wanted to pick Josh's brain on how would we do it. And he says, what the heck? I'll make it the first demo today. So you guys are in for an unusual treat here where we're just trying something out. The use of the newspaper constricts the glass a little bit. You can see he's using thumb pressure and his fingers to create a little narrowing right above the bulb. It's giving him a more cylindrical shape. Yes, it is a hyacinth flower, Sharon. The newspaper is really a great tool for working the glass. Of course, we can't put our hands directly on it. Don Newland says he'd like to see Josh make a glass flower the same size as the real one. Actually, with flame working, you could do that. A lot of glass blowers have a different style of work, which is using a very hot torch. All right, so he's gripped the glass again with his hand, but the newspaper provides the insulation. And now he can open the lip a little bit, open things up some. You can still see he's got the dark lines in it. Well, Michelle, we're glad you got your snow bunny as a gift and you love it. Well, we're glad to hear that. Very good.
Yeah, she posted pictures of it.
Yeah, here we go. All right, now he's getting ready to cut the glass with the shears. Notice he's going from one side to the other and then in between. The glass is continually falling, so he doesn't want that to fall back into itself. So he moves all around it, and he'll get a little bit done all the way around and go back for some more heat. Cindy Ballantyne, she said she started watching Great Pottery Throwdown on HBO. She can't get enough of watching people put things into fire. There you go. It is the art of fire. All right, so now he's getting the separation between those lobes. He's going to wet his hand because it's really hot in there. And now he's going to cut a little deeper as he goes around, because he's going to need those little pieces of flour long enough that he can kind of curl them over. All the while being conscious of the centering and the symmetry and the need for heat. Because if the bulbous body and the foot get too cold, they'll crack. Good morning, Ramiro. Glad to have you with us. So I missed who it was with the comment, Josh, but somebody speculated that you would heat this up and hold it upright to let it curl down. Good guess.
Absolutely. I actually haven't gotten that far, but that's a good idea.
He hadn't figured it out that far, but thank you for the suggestion. So you can see now that they're held out almost perpendicular, and he's going to stretch them a little bit, because the flowers typically have a point on them, and by pulling a little bit, he'll get that effect. And notice how they're almost, they're all in the same plane. By keeping them in the same plane, he makes sure that one doesn't fall into another while he's heating and turning. So you see that he's turning the whole thing in there, and in just a few moments he's probably going to need another door unless he's ready to let it drop now.
No, we'll get it longer still.
Okay, getting a little more work in on this. So those will be the curled portions of the flower that you see cut. Got a pretty quick rotation rate on it, and look how quickly he's moving around. He doesn't waste any time jumping to the next leaf. He's got to get to them. Now you can see that they're starting to cool off because it takes more effort to pull them. And that's about the amount of time he has to work that. He needs to keep the heat even throughout. Foster's gonna, what you need?
I was just looking at the flower. How much are they curled back?
Oh.
A good bit, aren't they?
Well, hello, Tricia. Welcome from Northeast England. Glad to have you with us. Right now, we're in the process of a hyacinth vase. So now he's got it a little bit of an upward angle, letting the petals fall back some, and now starting a curl around. Yep, that's right, Antoinette. Curled back, but not touching. Okay. So he's watching the movement of the glass in the glory hole, and now he's holding it upward, letting him curl down. He doesn't want him to touch the body. He can use his tweezers to separate that just a little bit. Lay the shapes down.
Good. Hey, that looks good.
There we go.
That's pretty.
All right, so let's see. There's the vase, and there's the model. So, outstanding job there.
Yeah, we found it, yeah.
The last inspection to keep everything nice and even. Little drop of water on the punty joint. The tap off, and there we go. All right, Josh will get the door thrown open for him. Foster has the piece put away, and tomorrow we'll have pictures of it. Well, let's hear it for Josh and Foster. An awesome job. On the fly. Yeah, they're the fly boys.
How about for the first one?
Okay, all righty. Awesome job. Okay, so for those of you that joined us late, we'll go on back and review what's on the display table. And if you didn't get a chance to see all of that construction of that piece, let me give you a quick background on that. Most of you have heard it though. So I picked this little flower this morning and couldn't identify it. Theta told me it's a hyacinth. I asked Josh, hey, how could I make this into a vase? So we discussed it, and then he said, what the heck, I'll make one. And that's what you just saw. So that's the hyacinth vase, and the reason you don't see one on display here is that's the first one that's ever been made in the studio. So review it if you like. Hey, Ken Ferguson is here. Welcome aboard, bud.
Hey, Ken.
Your brother from another mother says hello. Okay. All right. I'm kidding about that, folks. All right. That's a long story we won't get into. Next, we're going to have a signature vase. So the signature series is something that Foster started years and years ago. Okay. And it's a design, basically. And it consists of taking a base color, an opaque, and taking another color, usually red, and distributing it in a random pattern throughout as a design. And this is a signature vase here that is, now my son and my wife are taking over the comment section. Hi Mom, hi Ken. Okay, way to go. I'm glad to have it. Okay, so anyway, the design element is there. I'm not exactly sure what shape Josh will be using. You doing white with red, Josh?
Yes.
Yeah, so the vase will be in that style, that coloration, but it'll be white with red, okay? And here are many of our others, and we just thought that with all the flowers bursting with springtime, it would be really cool to make some vases, show you different displays, and we've got quite a selection here. And while he's getting the color together, we'll review a few of them. So you know that the signature vase is coming up next. This here is a flattened vase, and you can look on it on edge and see that it is very narrow. We also have fan vases. Here's one back here, and the colors are fanned out. The body is fanned out, and it's got a yellow top, beautiful with the flowers in it. We've got quite a few jack-in-the-pulpits. There's one right there with a teal and pink. I think that was the one made last week on demonstration. Here's one with a slightly longer but narrow throat. We've got trumpet-shaped vases. We've got straight-up cylindrical vases. Todd, a few weeks ago, made this beautiful basket here, and it just really accentuates its color by putting all those beautiful flowers into it. More jack-in-the-pulpit here. And the winner of last week's drawing for a free piece was Pamela Johnson Ritter. And she won this white one with the red base. And this one, the cranberry pink one, could be yours or could be yours. Just keep making comments. When you make the comments, your name gets entered in the drawing. So, oh, and this is a really cool one back here too. This is a 4-color vase. And this is a really interesting process. It's got 4 different colors. It's got blue and purple and pink and gold in it, and they're all put together. But you'll notice that they each take up basically a quadrant of the vase, and that's pretty hard to pull off, to keep all those colors separated and not mixing together. Yep, Ken, that basket really is pretty awesome. Okay, so there you have a selection of our vases and our winner from the drawing for last week, and what we've got for you for next week. So just make comments, and that gets you entered in the drawing. We like it if you share the video or our site with other people. That gets us more viewership. And of course, we love it when you like us, because everybody likes to be liked. All right, so how now, Brown Cow? What's up next?
Now we're doing the white signature.
Okay.
It's just a really nice pattern.
Okay.
It makes a really nice flower body.
So, have you picked up you haven't picked up the red yet? Okay. So Josh has a chunk of white glass on the end of the iron. It's been preheated to about 900 degrees. That helps it stick to the pipe. It really wouldn't stick to the pipe if it was room temperature. He's going to melt that in, and as he does that, Foster's going to go back with a tiny amount of glass on the end of a small solid iron and pick up a piece of red out of our annealer. So the annealers are these boxes of bricks that you see along the back wall. Their primary purpose is to put the glass in until the end of the day, and then gradually allow the heat to dissipate. But we can also warm up our color chunks. So Foster has picked up a little piece of red, and he's going to go over, there it is, and he's going to heat that in the glory hole alongside Josh. They'll combine these colors before making the vessel. So Josh will get the white melted, shaped, and ready for the red. Foster will do the same thing with the red, and then he will come back and hold on, my phone's ringing. I hope that's not carrying through to the broadcast. I'll just ignore it. Okay, so
Was you getting a call?
I don't know. So anyway, Josh now has the white on there, shaped a little bit into a conical shape, blunting the end just a little bit. Not exactly an overlay, Ted. It's kind of a wrap. It's a trail, okay? So instead of just putting the red on the end of the white and letting it overflow the whole thing, Foster's going to present it to Josh. Josh will drag it around the piece of white and just get a real nice thin line and even distribution throughout. Okay, yes, Barbara Gould Belzer, it probably was about my car warranty. And and David Hogan suggested the same thing. I am so sick of those calls. But have you noticed that if you press 2 to be taken off their call list, they immediately hang up? I thought that was really a fascinating marketing technique. All right, so there we go with the trail on. And it's a nice spiral pattern, but Josh is now going to mix that all up. And I'm glad for the report, Barbara, that you couldn't hear it ringing. I actually wear a hearing aid and they couldn't hear it.
Okay.
I have a hearing aid that is connected to my phone via Bluetooth, so I just hear it going off, but I'm glad you all didn't have to listen to the ringing. I've actually thought about answering the folks on the car warranty and telling them that I ride a bicycle or that I have a 1931 Stutz Bearcat. How much will it cost me to insure? Or a 65 Corvair. Okay, now you can see him mixing up the colors, and it's a completely random pattern. If the tip of that hooking tool gets hot, he just dips it in the water to prevent it from sticking in the glass. So you can see the swirls going there. So a time or two through that, Ken Ferguson suggests I sell them some glass.
There you go. Yeah, turn it around on them.
And Len Bayer says, or you work for the FBI. Ted Scott has ringing in his ears, but it's not from his phone. All of us suffer that a bit. Okay, another mixing here. And as we called him earlier, Sir Mix-a-Lot. All right.
I'll do one more.
One more? All right, we're going to really mix this one up. I really enjoy those random sales calls like that, especially if you can throw them off of their script. Some of them are pretty well disciplined, though. The minute you start anything else, they just hang up. You get somebody new on the job, it can be a lot of... Oh! Antoinette has a good answer. Hello, Gloucester County Sheriff's Department. How may I direct your call? We love that.
So there's a guy that actually answers it, and then he answers two of them, and they actually get both of them to talk to each other and try to sell
Oh, wow.
policy to each other.
Oh, my
And then
goodness.
records it.
That's great. Maybe we'll have a whole episode on how to mess
Yeah.
with
That would be a
sales
good
calls.
Saturday Night Live episode.
All right, so he's got the color mixed up now. There's still no air in this. He hadn't started a bubble. He's just shaping it, getting a nice, even, symmetrical shape around there. Very important before introducing any air. And it's not going to be a lot. See, just a quick puff of air in there and just a little bit. He doesn't want to blow that out really large yet. And here's our color mix in there to get a really good idea. Now that'll all stretch out and separate some, but as the red spreads out through the white and reacts with it a little bit, it takes on a beautiful tone. No pun intended on tone for those of us with tinnitus or hearing issues. All right, so the quick reheat there equalized the temperature between the core and the outer layer of glass. Now he's going to use the cherry wood cup mounted on a handle. We call that a block. That shapes it, also puts a little skin or a chilling effect on the outside, a little bit of air pressure. It has nowhere to go but out into that bubble. There's the expansion of the white and red, and now he'll simply let that cool so they can gather over by using the block or whatever. Maybe he'll just do it.
Does that show up on the camera? Can they actually see the? It's a really neat
It's
effect.
pretty bright.
Yeah, it's hard to
Let
see.
me get the
isn't it?
side. Now you can
really
see
cool
it there
pattern.
a little better. Yeah, beautiful pattern.
Especially when it's glowing. But
Now, when
sure,
this
it's hard
starts to blow out, gets a little bit thinner, longer, and stretched, you'll be able to see these colors a lot better. That glass is cooling some, and you can see the patterns right up there in the first couple of inches beyond the pipe, okay? When we try to show you a picture of where it's still incandescent, it's really hard to see. Yep, you can see it. There we go. It is a beautiful pattern and completely random. The glass is fluid enough, you can see it just drip right off, and when it forms that small little tail, we call it, it just burns itself right off. Now before Josh gathered, he had to let that glass cool, otherwise the intense heat of the 2,000 degree furnace would have made it collapse. Now he's reheating it a little bit to equalize the temperatures between the inner core and the outer clear glass he just picked up. By using the block, he's able to shape the glass, and if he uses it one more moment here, you can see that he's using the opening of the block almost as a fulcrum against the pipe to shape it. Ah! My wise guy, son, says completely random pattern. Is that a thing? How about completely random design? Just kidding. Looks a little like Mars from David Hogan. Okay, we can go with that. All right, now he's going to swing a little bit at first. Notice how he pauses the rotation. He's watching the lengthening of the vessel, and he doesn't want it to get too far away from him. Right now he's putting in, yeah, it was family dynamics, Ken. I deserved that one. No, I agree with you 100%. So what he was doing there was pulling the piece out. He was grabbing it down close to that ball and then pulling the glass outward. Random numbers are too important to be left to chance. That's from Ted. That's a good one. A little more lengthening there. And now you can see the very long neck on this vase. A little bit more air. You can see the diameter increasing. And now, by pulling out toward the camera, actually, he can straighten that neck. That's a very long neck. It wants to flop around. So by pulling outward on the glass, he's able to make it straight. Footed?
Yes.
Okay. No stem.
No stem.
Kind of looks like a watering ball for potted plants. Yes, it does. That's Bill O'Donnell. All right, so Josh holds the piece upside down, actually, points it toward the ceiling, and Foster brings the hot glass straight from the furnace. Josh clips it off. Notice he's carefully keeping it turning. That's so it doesn't fall way off center. And now what he's going to do is make sure it's an even distribution and pinch it between the two boards that we call foot boards. They give that foot a nice knife edge on it. And then after he takes a reheat, he'll do some more shaping. He'll work on cooling the bottom a little bit. That's fresh hot glass. And he'll also taper the shape of the foot a little bit. So he'll use both the blades and the hinge of the jack in order to shape the foot. The hinge of the jack flattens the bottom and cools it. The blades of the jack allow him to lean out and create a really nice taper. Yes, Rude, it is. It's a really great tool for doing feet. The paddle will help flatten it, and now he's going to torch the deck a little bit. We want the neck to be kind of cold, but not super cold. If it's been out of the heat too long, it will shatter at the break-off. And now you can get a much better idea of the beautiful pattern, the randomness of the design. Okay, more heat on the neck. This is not going to heat it exceptionally. It's just going to give it enough that it doesn't shatter when he puts the water on, taps the pipe, and breaks free. There we go. How often do we have to change out the blocks or the footing tools? Depends on who's using them. Some people use them in normal times. You know, this is a full production studio and a lot of rentals going on and stuff. So I would say if it's Josh Todd or Foster, the full-time glass blowers, you could probably get a year out of footboards. About a year on footboards.
Well, depending on how often they're used. You can get generally on one, you can get about 200 feet off of a pair of footboards if used properly.
Okay, so there you go. Not so much in time, but in quantity. So what Foster's telling you is, and you don't need an interpreter, I guess, if you heard that, but he can make 200 feet for stemware, perhaps, off a pair of footboards. And Rude, I'll address making those in just a few moments. But let's watch Josh now. Flatten the end with the hinge of the jacks, and now use the steam cone to get it in there. You can see the glow of the heat at the top, and now it's inflating at the top and getting larger because the water on the steam cone has evaporated and pushed the glass out. Okay? What kind of shape you going for on the top there, Josh?
We're going to scallop it, so use the fluting plate.
Oh, okay. So we use a tool that we call a fluting plate, and we call it that because it will put flutes in the top of the lip. And the way that works is after Josh opens this up and flares it out, he'll place it down on the fluting plate. And those are just simply metal T-brackets you can buy in a hardware store. Only thing he has to do is make sure that his opening is wider than that bare spot in the middle. And since he already knew that, he's already done that. And he's getting it out there. So he'll get the shape on that and the diameter he wants.
Oh, okay.
So
We'll do it, changed it.
change.
Yeah, he's going to do a jack in the pulpit.
Gonna do a jack in the pulpit. All these people were excited about the fluting plate. That's all right. So, again, an audible, a change of plan, if you will. So he's going to do the jack in the pulpit shape, which will still be just as beautiful. You can see how the lip is flared out, basically perpendicular to the central axis. One side of that will be flutes, no trumpets. Yeah, this is all woodwinds here. Okay, so he's going to fold one portion of that down and then fold the other up and then pull on it. So the first move will be with the paddle to push the glass over, and on the opposite side, push it up away from the vessel. Now comes the tricky part of the heating. He's got to keep enough heat in the body not to crack. He's got to get the top of it very, very hot so it can be pulled with a pair of tweezers, but he doesn't want it so hot that it takes the portion he's already folded downward and distort that. Sometimes if it starts to do that, we can give that a quick brush, grips it with the tweezers and pulls it straight out. And there's our jack in the pulpit design coming. And there we go. All righty. Beautiful. And you can see that wonderful pattern. Sorry, Ken. that non-pattern, that non-pattern of the signature series. Can we see it once more, Josh, real quick? There we go. There you go, folks. Okay, now time to take it off. A little bit of water onto the putty joint. Tap the iron and it comes free. And into the annealer it goes. Alrighty. Wonderful. All right. Let's hear it for the boys. Okay. We had a couple of requests about tools. So Josh, would you mind holding up the fluting plate?
Sure.
This is a real simple design here.
I'll tell you what, I'll do a quick
It's
one.
a board, okay, and it's got these T-shaped hardware fasteners that are just evenly placed around. So if you place those evenly around on the board and then screw them down, you can simply take, I think he's going to actually demonstrate its use just with a quick bit of clear glass. You want it on the floor?
Yeah. So I'm just actually, Bruce, gonna...
You want it on the mold?
Either way.
Either one. All right, so there's the fluting plate. So he's just shaping up a bit of hot glass right now. This is just going to be done in clear. Not intended to be a vessel or anything like that.
So we were just talking about this last week, about the glass blowers that actually don't even blow the glass, right? They'll...
Yeah. Okay, so a lot of glass blowers don't actually blow the glass. Josh has put a puncture, if you will, in the end of the glass. Now he's going to use the steam cone to inflate that area. There you see it growing, the bubble is enlarging. And there we go. So without a blowpipe, it'd be perfectly reasonable to make this beautiful bowl. He's going to open it up though and show you how to use the fluting plate.
You see a lot of candy dishes from the 50s were actually made that way. No blowing, just solid glass, puffing it out.
A lot of folks in the 50s and 60s, even later than that, created really beautiful designs in solid glass, especially floral work. And they didn't want that to distort by stretching it, which the blowing would do. So they would reserve a portion toward the upper part of the vessel so that you could actually put something in it. Ken says you are a freaking wizard.
Yeah, it's cool.
We all learn it somewhere. But now he's going to open this up just like he did the jack in the pulpit. But instead of pushing and pulling the sides, he's going to flare the lip and then he'll show you how we make the fluted top. Is it harder to do it that way? No, it's not a question of harder or easier. It's more a question of intention and what you want to do. You'll notice that basically Josh has formed the top of the vessel here. If he wanted to break this off and make it a bowl, he'd have a really tough time attaching a putty. He could put a putty inside the cup and then flatten the bottom.
Yes.
More likely what would happen is it would be broken free
Right.
and the thick glass on the bottom sanded or cold worked. Okay, so now he's got that wide opening on the top and he's going to heat primarily that. You're going to need another door there just to get a little more room. Now he's heating the rim. He's not heating the whole bowl. And what he'll do in a moment is bring it over. Now there's no bullseye on that to make sure that you're centered. So what he'll do is when he holds it down and looks at it, he'll make sure that there's an equal amount of each of those legs sticking out beyond the circumference of the piece. And when you see that it's there, then it's evenly distributed, and you've got the center. He presses down, he can rock it a little, and now he's going to give it a real quick heat, and then he'll probably come out, since I'm asking, and hold it upright so that everybody can see this beautiful design. And there we go. There's the fluted lip. You see a lot of pieces in our gallery and online on our website, artoffire.com, and that's how those are formed. So that's what we can do with the fluting plate. And for those of you that are glass blowers, yes, you can make your own. All right, and Rude also had a question about the footboard. So would you mind just holding this for a moment, Foster?
No, not at all.
And we'll show you that the boards are of different width. This front one is slightly narrower than the back one. And it has a strap hinge, a fabric hinge that's been stapled across both boards. These are what, about 10 inches long or so?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, and about 3 inches on the one and maybe 2.5 on the front, okay?
Yeah.
And then, Josh, would you mind grabbing a blank, or Foster will, a blank one? So what we do then is we heat up an iron, one of our metal rods, and we get it really hot, and then we press it onto the board. So this is a footing tool that Josh has actually been using. I'll put it back in the bucket, and Foster's going to show you what the blanks look like. So here are the blanks, okay? And this one would be the one that gets grooved. And by taking a 1/2 inch iron, very hot, and placing it across the wood, just like my thumb is, it will burn a groove into it. And we'll put grooves about every inch or so, and put about 4 to 5 grooves in it. And then we have our footing board once it's all stapled together.
Yes.
You'll also notice that this front board is tapered, okay? It's tapered for the closing, because if you've ever tried to close two pieces of wood that are exact same diameter, it doesn't close all the way. So that's the reason for that.
Yeah,
so
that,
there you go.
Yeah.
And if you're just a casual observer, sorry for the digression, but I think it's kind of interesting how this stuff is made. And those of you that are glass blowers, hey, get out there, Rude and Antoinette and whomever else, and make your own. Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you. Alrighty, so there we go with a hyacinth vase you saw, and you've got a signature vase just made. If you weren't here for the early part, the very first thing we did today was a hyacinth vase. And those of you that have asked about the creative process before, got to kind of see it right on the fly. I brought this little piece of a flower from my front yard today and asked Theta to help identify it. And she says, oh, that's a hyacinth. So then I showed it to Josh and I said, let's talk about how this could be made into a vase, because it's got a nice little bulbous bottom and a beautiful coloration. And he says, why don't we make one on a demo? And he's never made one. So after figuring out how to get the colors in it, the shape, we did it. And there'll be a picture online tomorrow. So next is going to come the clear frit vase. And clear frit is in the top of this kind of turquoise vase right here. And you see those like white or blobs, and they're actually pieces of clear frit that kind of distort your look into the color. So that's the type of coloring pattern that's going to be into it, okay? All right. Renee, Jennifer, so many meetings you can't respond. That's quite all right. We're happy to have you here no matter what. And for those of you that did come in a little late, the reason for featuring vases today is it's springtime. Everything's flowering outside. So we decided to take a sampling of our vases, put some flowers in them, and show you what yours could look like. We hope you'll get the vase from the Art of Fire and get your own flowers. So anyway, various samples here. Pamela Ritter Johnson won this Jack in the Pulpit from last week. So those of you that are commenting will be entered in the drawing for next week's prize. And that's going to be the one that's right next to it, a slightly different shape, a footed, but still a Jack in the Pulpit. Todd made this basket a few weeks ago. You might have seen us on that. And so long, Ken. Glad you checked in, buddy. With the flowers, it just makes it really pop a lot more. And a variety of our other vases back here. You can check our website, artoffire.com. You want to order something, or if you want one of the pieces you've seen made, 301-253-6642. Tracy still has snow showers. Northeast England, if I remember. No, I'm sorry. No, that was Tricia. I'm sorry. No, not Tricia, it was Tracy. All right, so Josh has got a white core on this. He's going to gather up over that. And it looks like he's using kind of a purplish color. Our colors are numbered, and this 420 is a mountain blue, which is a little bit lighter than a cobalt blue. Oh, so maybe I did get it right. Okay, so snow showers. Wow. All right, so he's going to coat it with the mountain blue. Vanessa, glad to have you with us. If some of you, it is. It's 12:01 here on the East Coast, so some of you are just joining us at lunch. So today's theme is vases. I highly recommend later on going back and catching the replay, because the very first vase we made today, the hyacinth vase, is really kind of exciting because we've never done it before, and it turned out absolutely beautiful. All right, so Josh has got the mountain blue on there, and then in just a moment he's going to go pick up the clear frit. And this is what is going to kind of disrupt the pattern of color, if you will. All right. It's like a really hot corn dog. All right, so he'll get this all heated up, distributed, melted in, and then be gathering over that. So you can see those shards are a lot larger than the normal frit that we use, and they're not all a consistent size, which is fine, because that's what's going to give it the mottled effect. If we all made mottled glass, could we be the Motley Crew?
Okay, it took an hour and 6 minutes.
To get a groan. Yeah, they've been moving, but not that badly. Okay. You can see the color change on the glass as he rolls it on the marble, and that's what's taking the heat out of it, is rolling it on that metal table. So the splotchy effect, if I get up here so you can see close to the pipe, the area that's closest to the iron is going to be kind of splotchy first. The lower portion of the gather. Yep, Kristen, dad jokes. There we go. Now you're starting to see the effect of the clear frit. A little bit of air under pressure, and we'll watch this grow. There it goes. The diameter's increasing. Even when the glass is covered up with color, we judge where the bubble is. Bridget, what we're working on now is called a clear frit vase. Josh picked up a base color of mountain blue and then picked up clear frit, which is kind of like shards. I'll show you a little bit of what they look like. They're in a jar right here.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, that's all right. Somebody just asked about what we're, that's good. We can, yep. So they're just pieces of clear frit, random sizes. When they're gathered then over the blue, now you get a really good look at that mottled effect on the glass. That's really beautiful. Now he's let that cool so he can gather over. If he were to gather with it hot, it would cause the interior bubble to actually just disappear. The whole thing would collapse and we'd be starting over. So he's going to let a little bit drizzle off. He's got more glass than he wanted. Better to take a little more than you want and get rid of it than not have enough. We can't just take a dab of glass and stick it in on one spot or something like that. So now he'll block that, get it stabilized and under control. You can see that as he pauses momentarily with the iron, the glass is still moving, still very hot. See that? That's what he has to fight against constantly, is the gravity. So another reheat, a little more shaping, and off we go. So if there are any others of you that have joined us late or had to leave and come back, you got any questions about what's going on, what we did earlier, what you missed, again, I'm going to recommend that you go back and review that first piece at your leisure another time on our Facebook page, because it's absolutely amazing, the hyacinth vase. All right, so now a little more air and a little more expansion. The pressurized air has no place to go but out into the bubble, and when it gets to the size he wants, he just simply releases the pressure. The use of the metal table, the Marver right now at an angle like that, is cooling the very end of the piece. Imagine glass blowing on the space station. Ha! That's kind of cool. All right, so rolling that onto Marver then, cooled it off, and now he's going to blow, but you'll notice that the end of it doesn't excessively inflate. That's because he cooled it off. The increase in diameter was primarily toward the top and the middle. Cutting the jack line now with the metal blades, the tool we call jacks, that'll be a point of separation from the iron later on. It's very important, the shape and size of that neckline. If we don't cut it deep enough, the glass has a tendency to fracture when we break it off. Also, it needs to have a bit of a slope to it. The glass actually springs a little bit when the tension's released at the transfer. And if the shape of that is wrong, then it can spring too much and fracture. Now, a little bit of lengthening, very slowly. See how gently he does that, and pause. A little pause is not just for drama, not to show you how he can control the pipe. It's to control the glass and keep it from getting too long. He'll blow, and the bottom where it's hot now expands. And now he's getting the basic shape of the vase here. As it cools, you'll see more blue coming through. The white's kind of obscuring it, and in the hot portions, it's kind of hard to see. Now you're getting a better picture of it because it's cooling off. And you can see where the blue is pushing through the white, forming like rings. Very nice. All right, Foster's at it again with the punty. And he's going to shape the little bit of glass on the end of that iron. And it's very important that he not have a lot of glass coming off the end of the iron. Think about it. That's going to be like really, really hot when it goes on. And it's going to have to stay warm. And if it was a couple inches long, it'd be like wiggling a finger and make it very difficult to hold the pipe under, hold the piece under control. So by having just a small amount of glass off the end, that helps Josh control it later on. We'll place it in the center. And then as he turns the iron, he uses his tweezer blade. He can center the piece, and he can also center the iron. A little bit of water. There we go. Todd's in for some observation. A tap on the iron, and there it comes off. Did you see all of that? Okay.
That's great.
So, Kristen, you love which effect? Todd's eyeballs or the glass? I'm teasing, of course, the glass. Okay, the neck of that was cold enough to fracture. It's going to take just a couple of moments of extra heat to heat it so where it's malleable again. You'll have to heat the whole piece once in a while just to keep it warm. Now he's centering it. He's a little bit off center, so by lifting up, he can force it back to where the iron is in the center of the piece. Yes, Bridget, foolishness from the peanut gallery. But his turn is coming. He'll be demonstrating in a few moments, and I'm sure that Josh is plotting his revenge. All right, Kristen, glad to hear it. Said she had a nice conversation with you, Foster,
Right.
on the 31st.
Yep.
Ordered the cat for kids, and
She ordered
just in
hers.
time, and got some shamrocks glasses too. Wonderful, wonderful.
She ordered them. She didn't get them.
Well, okay, yeah, ordered them.
Yeah.
Okay, you can see from the glow that the upper portion of this vessel is hot. Josh can use the newspaper on that hot glass to kind of shape it. If he squeezes a little bit between his thumb and finger, he can constrict the line. By angling the jacks, he can change the shape at the lip. And here we're coming out with the vase. What kind of top you going to do on this?
Just a little more flair, and that's a
A
great
little
flower
more
base.
flair. Okay. Great for flowers, exactly. So once again, he's heating the lip area. That's what he's going to move. Wow, Barbara Gould Belzer says, how about a thistle in rocks class? Does that sound familiar? Do we know somebody else that wanted to make glasses with thistles? Ted,
yeah,
Ted Scott, who may or may not still be on, but Ted was talking about that.
He wanted to make thistles though.
Okay, so you can see him getting the flare in that lip. Alrighty,
Good.
there you go. And the colors are just beautiful. A little bit of water, a little bit of vibration, and it breaks at the weak point, which is the punty joint, comes off and into the annealer. Okay, there we go. Wonderful. There you go. Let's hear it for Josh. Come on. How about some hearts? How about some thumbs up? Yes, indeed.
sweating over here.
Absolutely beautiful. Okay. And Foster. Great job, guys. Okay. So, there we have it for that. Let's walk on down, look at our display area, and figure out what's next. Alrighty. A Frit Swirl teardrop shaped vase. Todd will be doing this, and we'll get over there in just a moment. Remember to keep your comments coming. When you comment, you get entered in the drawing for next week's giveaway. Next week's giveaway will be this cranberry pink footed Jack in the Pulpit. Last week's winner was Patricia Johnson, and that is hers now. Will be on the way to her before long. Okay, so let's see what Todd has got laid out for us. Oh, this looks like a lot of beautiful frit here. What colors have you got, Todd?
I've got a 61 light from opaque light from Reichenbach, a lapis blue, and a coral red. This is going to be a red, white, and blue Frit swirl vase. The It's a wedding present, custom order for a friend of mine who is giving it to someone who graduated from Arizona State.
Ah.
Not the son does. So I guess it would be University of Arizona, not ASU. But we're going to do red, white, and blue. We're going to pick up a couple of colors. We're going to overlay them together. We're going to swirl them around.
Okay.
We're clear over that, and onward and up.
Okay.
DJ Donna. All right, there's your shout out.
Okay. Gary Brady asked, how can you guys look into the furnace all day with clear glasses? Doesn't that bother your eyes?
What?
What eyes? No, actually, we don't look into it all day, and we don't focus on it while we're looking, okay? So that sounds a little strange. We do have to look in to see the pipe strike the level of the glass, make sure we're gathering in the right place, but we don't stare intently into it. So,
Looking like this.
yeah, there we go. That's what's happened to Todd's eyes after all these years of glass blowing. Okay, so it's a good question. We don't wear welder's shields or anything like that, but we don't stare directly into the brightness. If you can manage, imagine kind of a peripheral vision, if you will, but we don't really stare into the brightness. Oh, Jill Joubert says her daughter is a 2014 AU graduate. How about that? Okay.
Wildcats, right?
Either that or American University, who I think are the Eagles. I'm kidding. Okay, so he's got a bubble established in the clear glass. Be gathering over that, and he'll work toward picking up the frit. And as he described the frit and the twist to you, there's the colors right there. Beautiful red and blue, opaque colors. Okay. Matthew, if you're talking about your arms getting burned from the edge of the pipe, that would probably be positioning or something. We really, any heat we experience at the bench would usually be to the right arm if it's in proximity to the hot glass, okay? Oh yeah, no, I understand it's not a first degree burn or anything like that, but these stainless steel pipes get hot to the point you can't touch them only about 12 to 16 inches from the glass. Where Todd's holding it right now, it's not really all that hot.
That's a first degree.
He's got a little bit of red right there. Was that from the gather?
Yeah.
Okay. So your left hand is down there on the gather, and that's why you get that red.
That's radiation from the furnace.
Okay.
And convection.
So now he's got that blown out.
Not conduction.
So quite often you'll see us, if we make larger vessels, use a wooden paddle for a shield on the forearm, and usually it's only for a couple of moments. Also, we do have some sleeves that we can put on our arms to block the heat. Gloves are a really bad idea in glass blowing. The worst burns any of us have seen was someone that wore gloves, and it wasn't anybody that was working with us, but someone wore gloves while blowing glass and didn't realize that the gloves would trap the heat in on the hand. And it came out really bubbled. So we never want to see that. Yeah, the radiating heat is really something. So Todd's going to gather this up now. When he raises the iron like that, he's letting some drizzle off back into the furnace. That keeps it usable. And since he held it up like that, we know that he got just the right amount of glass and didn't need to drain any off into the bucket. Now he's going to pick up the white. And then in a few moments, he'll take a reheat on that. When he's got sufficient white, we'll be going through the red and the blue. Okay. One of the things we learn really early, but also we teach to the students that we have when we're in the process of teaching classes, is how to maintain your safety, how to stay away from the hot stuff, the things to do to avoid burns. And it generally works really well. About the only time the iron gets really hot, the blowing iron, to the point that we kind of jump when we grab it, is if it's got any moisture in it at all. And then when that moisture is heated, it forms steam in the pipe, and that can be a little uncomfortable. You'll notice he's running through the red and the blue right now. Got a really nice mix of colors on there.
Talk about Final Four.
I'm going to say we're going to talk about something nicer, because we seem to have suppressed the conversation.
Well, I have watched the NCAA, so I know who won last night, so it won't be a surprise.
Ah. Hello, Kimberly. Welcome aboard. All right, so we've got another layer of another coating of the red and blue on top of this. And for those of you that may have just joined us, Todd's in the process of making a twisted frit teardrop shaped vase. Now he's got his colors in there. I'm not sure how many cats for kids were sold, Kimberly. Theta's online, though. She can 50. Wonderful. Hey, that's great. Thank you all for that. Yeah. Wonderful. 50. That's amazing.
Oh, thank Todd for the idea.
Yeah.
That was terrific.
Great idea. Wonderful selection of colors.
Well, I'm just glad everybody was
And then
willing to participate.
a little bit of forever making them. All right. A little bit more of the red and the blue on there. Thank you, Kimberly. We're glad to be sending that money to charity. It's really worthwhile, and we're certainly happy for the support from all of you. So this is one of the few pieces today you can't buy. Todd's making this as part of an order. So, but the hyacinth vase, the clear frit, any of that stuff that you saw, anything, well, maybe anything yet to come. The signature vase, all up for grabs. Get in touch with Theta or check in on our website, artofire.com. You can contact us there or phone us at 301-253-6642 to place an order. And the whole idea here today is that we wanted to do vases because it's springtime. The flowers are popping up. And what better place to display the flowers after they've bloomed is in a vase in your home. So now Todd's getting that frit all melted in, and he's going to turn the iron in one direction. He's turning it clockwise, and he's letting the friction against the metal tabletop, the marver, cause those individual pieces of frit to stretch out into lines. Thank you, Barbara. We appreciate your support. Yeah, David Hogan, it's all about the vase. I'm glad. I am so glad somebody came up with that. Todd's going to put this into the mold now and let it twist against those ribs of the optic mold. So he's holding the pipe. He's not pressing down hard on it. He just wants to let the glass grab against the ridges. Foster may be able to answer your question a little better than me, Jen. She visited Fenton Glass, Art Glass, and said that most of it didn't look blown. How is it made? All I'm aware of is their blown glass. Do you have any insight?
They would blow into molds, and then clip it up, and then open it up, bring it to its completion. But they also did a lot of press wear.
Oh, okay. So
well.
it's pressed into a mold
Pressed
or
into
form.
a mold, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps, Jen.
And that's how a lot of the patterns came about, by squeezing the glass in between two pieces of cast iron with the appropriate amount of glass, and then it was finished off by hand by the glass blowers, finishing the pieces off to bring them to their final shape and form.
Cool. There we go. Alrighty. And that's the way the old glass industry worked. And in fact, it still does work that way. But we don't here because we're not in that type of business. But if you were in, say, Fenton Glass, or what's the other one that's up in West Virginia? Begins with a B.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, both of us can't remember. Wait a minute, we'll go get somebody that's 20 years younger to answer this.
Well, it's the only one that's operational anymore.
Blenko, I remembered. Blenko Glass, if you look that up, that's an old glass company from up in West Virginia. And, oh, Fern got it too. Okay, so, all right, Todd's got his twist pattern in there and he's going to gather over that. You can't see the red and the blue distinctly yet, but you will as it cools and when it comes out.
And that's Blanco.
Yes,
Yeah.
we got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Finally remembered.
Or
I
did
remembered, and
somebody
then
tell you?
Fern got it. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So at any rate, now there's a little more than he wants, so he's going to let it drizzle off. Then when he brings the iron to horizontal and keeps it turning, that little trail of glass burns itself apart. And that's how he gets to just the right amount of glass. When a factory's involved in a lot of production, and by that I mean making hundreds or thousands of the same piece, it saves time, and time is money, to blow the pieces into mold or press them into a mold between pieces of metal. And that's what they were doing in those factories. Okay, Todd's got the big block, so this is going to be a pretty good sized teardrop base. The cherry wood block stays in the water all the time. This is to avoid cracking. It also, when it touches the glass, provides a bed of steam for the glass to ride on. When he cups his hand at the end of the piece like that, it chills and shapes that area, and then he'll marver that area also by inclining the iron downward and rolling that portion on the marver. That cools that area a good deal, and when he blows, it doesn't expand as much as the rest.
Can you turn this for a second?
Sure.
Okay, so Todd's making an equipment adjustment in the back. He's got Foster turning the piece. Every once in a while, we decide that we need the, yes, Michelle, it does look like Blenko has a good bit of pressed glass. Okay, so anyway, sometimes we need the heat turned up just a little bit or down a little bit in the glory hole, depending on how the piece is working. Todd knew exactly what adjustment he wanted to make. That's why Foster took it for a moment. So it's all been heated now since it was all in the glory hole, and once again, rolling that end, that tip on the marver, not only shapes it, give it a conical appearance, it cools it a great deal. And since we all know that hot glass moves and cold glass don't, you knew it was coming. Come on, guys. You can see the inflation is right around the middle, and up toward the top of the vessel near the blowing iron. That lower portion that was marmored, it's expanding a little bit, but it's maintaining the shape that Todd had on it. And that's all what creating a cold zone in the glass is about. By letting the glass point downward like that, it lengthens off the blowing iron some. And again, the use of the metal blades, the jacks, to create a constriction point. By pivoting over like that, the glass is going to lengthen a little bit, but it also helps with centering and keeping it moving on the blowing iron. You can see that Todd was not only squeezing with the jacks and moving them, but he was twisting the blowpipe back and forth. And that keeps it a nice centered line down the length of the vessel. He's applying heat now. When he starts the rotation going faster, David Hogan says his day's not complete without that phrase. Well, thank you, David.
That's right.
Glad to know it.
And
Again,
somebody
cooling
else
the tip.
actually used your line in one of their videos.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Once more, he's back on it with the jacks. This is the point of separation from the blowing iron, so it needs to be constricted, shaped just a little bit to ensure a clean break off, and now he's able to inflate it, blow it out here. Now, since he didn't cool the bottom a great deal then, he had a reservoir of hot glass down in the bottom, which is now expanded, and this is going to give him that characteristic teardrop shape. And now that he's got the volume working up, now he's going to start lengthening it. You saw him take the pair of calipers. He has a preset length for this order. So what he'll gradually work on doing is allowing gravity and centrifugal force to lengthen the vessel. That'll give it its beautiful teardrop shape. He's got all of it in the glory hole, so it's all getting hot, so the motion will be throughout. He starts by simply hanging it and swinging it gently. He's watching the lengthening, but he's also watching to make sure that it doesn't run away. When he spins it, he's got his eye on it to focus on the length. As he starts to get toward the length he wants, he'll check it with his calipers. When he gets where he wants with that, he'll work on any further inflation or shaping of the teardrop. So several people have commented, Todd, that you get so close to the floor, it makes them nervous. Well, it doesn't make him nervous, and he's used to it, and I'll show you why that's happening. You see this bench Todd's working at? For me and a lot of other people, it's a lot easier to sit at that low bench. You get a better angle or relief on your legs, okay? And many of us work on benches like that. When you look over here at the bench that Josh was using, it's quite a bit higher. So that means when he pushes the iron over the edge and blows, the glass is much further off the floor. Todd's not dangerously close to the floor. It's more like Josh is really far away from it when he uses that other bench. And in fact, I use that bench also. But sometimes it's nice to change them up. He's letting it lengthen just a bit. He'll take a quick check with his calipers in a moment, or maybe not. He already checked his length once. The paper is cooling the bottom. Then when he blows, it doesn't expand so much. You'll notice that the very bottom still has that bullet nose curve to it, but he managed to get the central portion to blow out some. And now we can get a really good look at the colors appearing. There's your red, white, and blue in the swirled frit. All right. The colors are fabulous, Joanna. We really like it. Yeah, I think the recipient will love it. It's a really beautiful pattern, and as that glass cools, the colors become more evident. Todd's heating the lower portion of the vessel. That means that's where the action's going to take place. He simply flashes the upper part every once in a while. Do the chemicals and the colors ever interact with each other? Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Striking colors.
Again, see how he's shaping the bottom, kind of cooling it there in the lower 3 inches or so. That was to stabilize that, and then he'll begin to work on the process of flattening the bottom. Jim, we do mix the frit on the table sometimes, especially if we think it might be colors that we'll use again. We use the table, the Marver, a good bit. But in a case like this where he needed the colors really interspersed, he'll save that red and blue mix for use in another piece. You can see from the glow that the lower portion of the vessel is hot. He'll cool and stabilize the curved side and then press on the hot bottom. By using the paddle, you can get a nice flat surface down there to sit on. A little indentation or dimple with the jacks ensures that when the punty goes in there and breaks off, it's below the area that would sit on a table. We would grind it anyway. As we told you with the other pieces, Todd is heating the neck a little bit. It's been out of the heat a while, and just doing this is really helpful in the break-off. So Todd's got that all flashed and ready to go. Foster's prepared the punty iron, a little bit of glass on it. Todd will place it and center it. And then he'll turn everything, both irons and the piece, to get it all aligned. And he's going to use the Sophietta to chill the punty joint a little bit. This is really nice when you want to break it off a little quicker. It solidifies that joint. It cools it off a little bit. And especially with a large vessel and a good sized mass like this. A little drop of water, and then you'll pull the iron up toward the rail, and then once again the tap will break it free. Foster's got it over to the glory hole. He'll ease it up. You can see that the piece is still moving up and down a little bit. That's because that punty joint is still warm. And now Todd's going to start working the top of it. It was cold enough to fracture, requires some heat to work. Every once in a while you'll see him put the whole piece into the glory hole. That's so that the punty and the lower half of the vessel stay warm. If we don't keep this glass at well above 1,000 degrees, it could start to fracture. So he's heating the upper reaches of that, and since this is going to be a teardrop shape, he's got the bulk of it formed already. Almost all the glass vessels we make are formed by making the lower half to 2/3 at first, taking it off of the blowing iron, and then finishing the top. And that's the process we're in right now. So it's going to take a minute. Oh, he's got it. You can see that orange glow in there. That's indicative of heat. Checking his measurements so he knows exactly where to go with everything. And now, squeeze it out a little bit. Now he'll pick his spot for a constriction and tap that off. So there's a couple of ways to thin the glass out at the top, or even it up if you will. One of them is to knock it off, or bonk it off, we sometimes say. And that's done by creating a jack line just below the lip area a little bit. And then chilling that jack line and then holding it tight with a metal tool or on the edge of the bench and having someone tap it with a pair of tweezers. Another way is to use shears. You've seen that done too today. Todd right now is cutting a jack line. You can see that's 1.5 to 2 inches below the lip that he pulled out with the tweezers. He's got that set to the diameter he wants and the length. Now he's going to wet that joint a little bit, and we'll see how he goes about breaking it off. He's going to hold it with the diamond shears. Foster taps it off, and there it goes. So that's the bonk off method. The rondelle is almost the shape of the Millennium Falcon. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that, Lindsay Beth.
What?
She says the rondelle looks like the shape of the Millennium Falcon.
Oh.
Wait a minute, we'll take the camera outside and point it up to the clouds and see how many animals you can see. Okay, the jack's into the mouth for the opening. Getting that neck nicely straight. And the use of the newspaper again. It's a perfect insulator. We take about 7 or 8 sheets of newsprint, fold them up into about a 7 by 8 inch piece, and then soak it in water. And then it makes a perfect insulator for us to grab the glass with our hand. And believe me, we wouldn't think of grabbing it without it. So he's heating the lip area, still working on that a little bit more. Gonna give that a good strong heat. And you'll notice it moves a little bit as he comes back, but by hanging it down and then bringing it back, he can paper it into shape. And then when he's ready, he'll use the jacks. Okay, he's going to use the parchophy on it here in a moment. The parchophy is basically a copper cone with a tube attached and a mouthpiece. And by blowing on this end, the air comes out this end, and the conical shape creates a seal. So it works very much like a steam cone. Actually, Foster's grabbed the straight Sophietta. So he'll kneel down here, and when Todd asks for it, he'll place that cone in the end of the piece and begin to blow. Todd will tell him when. And there's the inflation along the slope of the neck. Okay. So that's just another way of accomplishing the same thing. Now, one of the nice things about using a Sophietta or a puffer is that you can control the amount of air. You can blow softer, you can blow harder. You have choices. With the steam cone, it's going to do whatever it does once you stick it in the opening. So if it is not enough steam pressure to inflate what you want, you're just out of luck. You need to create more pressure by adding more heat. With the Soffietta, you could simply tell your partner, or if you were working yourself, you could just blow harder and it would happen. There they are, straightening the lip again. And now he's got a steam cone. Okay, so now the key with the steam cone, one thing is a good seal around the lip. You need to make sure that there's no place for the steam to leak out. Well, there certainly isn't going down the piece and onto the putty iron, so the only place it could leak is at the lip. Considering the fragile nature of work, how frequent do floor models get produced? Well, every once in a while it happens. It's not a big deal. As time goes by, though, we get more and more people get more and more used to working it. So it's not a very high percentage. It wouldn't be a good business model. So there you see the steam cone. By pressing in, he maintains the seal, and now he's getting the shape he wants in the neck. Now, if there's a little bit of a wrinkle in it or thing, then he'll just straighten that out. It wasn't quite a straight break, Rude. That's what he was working on. So it's a matter of adjustment. So as we've said many times before here, it's not what you can make, it's what you can fix. And as Jim asked about the floor models, well, sometimes you make something that can't be fixed. And sometimes, as Bridget said, yeah, there was a few weeks ago we were doing a bunch of stemware, and some of the punty work just didn't hold on, and we had some issues with it. So, yep, sometimes it happens. The important thing is, when it's like anything else, you don't give up. You just figure out what it is that you didn't like about what happened, and see if you can figure out how to fix it. And that figuring is one of the more interesting parts of the work. In fact, it's one of the more enjoyable parts of the work. If you caught our first piece this morning, you saw that we kind of worked it as we went along. And if you didn't catch that, please go back later at your own leisure and see if you can watch that video, because we created a hyacinth vase, and we've never done that before. Actually, Bridget, we didn't do anything to fix the stream. It must just be Mother Nature's not interfering today, or the cell's data provider has boosted a few electrons. I don't know. But here we are nonetheless, and I'm glad to hear that it's working all right. Now he has the wooden jacks, the Parchofi, and what they do is allow him to, that's right, Scott, if first you don't succeed, try again. So he's using the paper now to constrict the neck area a little bit. He's got that beautiful flare at the top, and you can see the colors coming through very nicely. We'll get in a little closer here. Yeah, the shape is very graceful, Patricia. So we'll take a little closer look here. Don't want to get too close in when he and Foster are moving back and forth trying to get this done. So now it's going to be a matter of a little more shaping. You can kind of see where the heat is in the upper half of the vessel. The newspaper holds it in place. The lip is made, and there he goes with the profile. And you can see the colors beautifully in there. You've got the red, white, and blue. Foster's going to glove up. They're going to take this off of the putty. Well, Jim, glad you have a chance to watch us, and I'm glad that you can see the videos after the fact. So this one's going to be taken off over by the annealer. Todd's going to tap it off. Foster's going to put it in the annealer, stand it up in there, and away it goes. Now that, you can see the lip of the vessel just at the top of the annealer. and a kneeler is 14 inches tall. Nice job. There we go. Let's hear it for Todd. Yeah, it's beautiful. We'll have pictures up tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. And thank you, Foster. Okay. What?
That's 1 o'clock.
Okay. So we're pretty much out of time right now, so we're going to call it a day there. But before we do go, we have an old video where we have one of these. We'd set a clear optic vase, and the Glenstone Museum is over in Montgomery County here in the suburbs of DC, and there's one of the vases right there as a centerpiece, and we're very grateful to them. They had come in with some orders and some prototypes were made. They asked for some pieces, and they wound up taking these vases as centerpieces. I'm not sure if the museum's open right now. I know that they have a huge outdoor exhibit area, and that has been open for a little while, but not too sure about the indoors. So perhaps at another session, we'll make you the clear optic vase. And thanks again to our friends at Glenstone Museum. We really appreciate that. Here's samples of the many vases we make, from flattened vases to jack-in-the-pulpits, the signature color pattern, trumpet vases, multicolored vases. Check the catalog out. There's more than you can imagine there. So artoffire.com, and don't forget, we have gift certificates available. So if you want to get some glass for someone and aren't sure what to get, give them a gift certificate. They can pick it out. Our winner last week was Patricia Johnson. She won the white with red jack-in-the-pulpit. Our prize this week is another jack-in-the-pulpit, but it's on a stem with a foot and a beautiful cranberry color. So thank you very much for watching, and from the Art of Fire folks, have a great week. Bye-bye.